Intro. So I'm Justin.
I'm Tim.
I'm Frank.
I am also Frank.
All of us are plaid lads. You better deal with it, America. Blow job. Cunnilingus.
Welcome to the first lost episode of the Plaid Lads. We've made a real effort at trying to have lost episodes before. This might be it.
I started recording again.
Oh, wow.
I had to get that gold.
Wow.
I had to get that gold down on tape. I need something to blackmail you with.
Oh, Frank quit. Bye, Frank.
What's happening?
I don't know.
Oh no, I was just grabbing my beverage.
Are you in a gaming chair?
No, this is just a regular chair.
Is that like for playing World of Warcraft?
No, it would be for playing Hearthstone.
Jesus, fuck you.
Is that
the World of Warcraft trading card game?
Okay. Do we have a current events song?
It's the day of tomorrow and the day of yesterday. We will look towards the future. It's a brand new day.
It's the week of February something if 20-something 84 and stuff has happened.
Wow.
Hey guys, can we talk about Ryan Adams?
Yeah. This I don't know anything
probably
about,
should.
so I would like to hear.
Yes.
So it turns out that little ragamuffin-y Joe, Ryan Adams, I've never cared about his music.
It's very plain.
It's super plain Jane.
As vanilla as it gets, I think.
I liked Heartbreaker. That's pretty much as far as I go.
You like the music of a depraved monster, my friend.
Yeah, and I say it was not even. It didn't even go much farther than that.
He's like XPN shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hate.
Yeah, he's more of a talented producer than he is a talented musician.
And it would seem that he has honed that production talent purely to harangue women into sleeping with him.
Almost entirely, because he produced records by a lot of women.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
It's disturbing.
So apparently, Mr. Ryan Adams, if you haven't heard, would contact up-and-coming female songwriters, singer-songwriter types, and offer to collaborate and record, and then start, pestering them for sex. And if they rebuffed him, he would then rescind his offers of production and recording and fail to release things that they had recorded. So basically using his reputation as a kingmaker in indie singer-songwriter spheres to leverage sexual stuff, including, and this is the one the FBI is investigating, when he discovers a literal teenager from somewhere in America, a teenager who plays the bass, and the FBI is sifting through their thousands of text correspondence looking for if he was soliciting a minor.
Yeah, it was. So there was literally something like 4,000 texts, and the victim has alleged that there was a video chat that became an explicit video chat wherein he exposed himself to her on either a FaceTime or a Skype, but it was over a phone. So that's something that they will be able to access. And in addition to that crime, there is the not crime, but moral crime of he was at one point for several years married to Mandy Moore.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Who, before she was a successful actress on This Is Us and a couple of other projects, she was a pop star. She was a pop musician.
What? I don't remember.
Yeah, and then she married him, and suddenly she stopped making music.
Oh,
And she said in the article, she made a very brief statement saying that he is a very controlling and abusive person. And I think he had started to produce her records. And at one point in her life, she just stopped making music. And that was
something super fucking heartbreaking. See, I think me and Frank are both going off the long form New York Times piece talking about this. And there was the Mandy Moore thing Frank just referenced, but also the teenager and another singer-songwriter who is a bit older. Both, and this I had to stop reading and fucking die. Both of them, after their experiences with Mr. Adams, decided not to make music anymore.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Jesus.
Anyway, so that guy's
a real scumbag.
Total shit.
There was a thing a long time ago where coincidentally enough, the music critic Jim DeRogatis, who was the guy who has been doggedly pursuing the R. Kelly investigation for something like 20 years, he wrote a bad review of a Ryan Adams album, and Ryan Adams got fucking shit-ass wasted and recorded a horrible call on his voicemail. And that's on YouTube if you ever want to listen to Ryan Adams be a real fucking asshole.
Jesus Christ.
To somebody. So
I'm kind of suspicious of anyone who's in those circles. That sort of milquetoast singer-songwriter thing. It's like, you have to have no soul to make something so soulless. Like, yeah. I don't trust them.
I don't know. I mean, like, he did weird shit for some periods of his career. Like, he did like a weird doom metal album at one point, and he started like a goth band. So he did these like weird bits of experimentation, but they were always so arch and always so. There are times when artists genuinely go out there and experiment with shit, like Brian Eno or PJ Harvey or somebody like that, where they do genuinely out there shit just to do it. And then there's times when somebody like Ryan Adams does it, and it just seems like so much of a put on.
Yeah.
He did an entire cover album of Taylor Swift's 1989.
Yeah.
Who has that kind of time on their hands?
It's nihilists. It's
and
empty people.
The weird thing with the 1989 thing was the turnover was so quick. Like, the day 1989 the Taylor Swift album dropped, he dropped that cover album.
How did he even...
Very weird.
So, anything else going on?
Well, we are in
I mean, there's politics shit happening, like, but we made like a weird vow to not talk about it. I mean, we could talk about the impending constitutional crisis, but I don't think anybody wants to.
I'm afraid of taking this dark turn. We kind of swore it off, but I need to check in with everybody. Is everybody okay with the emergency?
Yeah.
You okay? Do you have enough food and water stocked up? There's an emergency.
Yeah. So
Justin's doing his.
Justin's doing the thing, Tim. This is the thing.
This is the thing he does.
Fucking shit!
Yeah, here it is.
Okay, no, okay, all right.
It's
all
coming.
Right. No, okay, so this is okay. This is like okay. So like, there's this crazy man, right? I hate to say that word. That sounds derogatory, but a soulless sack of shit man who's running around naked in the forest, right? And he's having a grand, wonderful time, right? And he gets his foot caught in a bear trap, right? And then I lost the thread. What's happening?
You usually get farther into your metaphors than that.
Okay, let me think of a better one. This is fucking stupid. We live in an idiot realm of everybody sees the same thing. I don't think anybody's delusional. Nobody's delusional. It's very clear, and everybody's on board with the clearness of it. It's just that there's it's a world full of nihilism. Why can't we believe in something?
I had a thought during the week that you know how I was thinking about this. I was thinking about how the whole world seems to be going to shit in the United States, the Western world, France, Germany, Europe, Philippines, everywhere. And I was thinking about it, and I thought about what if there's like a physical cause, and I thought about how you can trace a causational line through statistics between the use of leaded gasoline and a decline in IQ and a raise in violent crime. And other sentiments, and then as we
That's
took
kind of interesting.
leaded gasoline out, these numbers returned to normal. The violent crime decreased. General IQ went up, and it's this really well documented case of how a public health thing had massive macro effects on the arc of history. And I was thinking, what if we just all have a mood disorder from the internet, and that's
What?
Oh,
why.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if it drove everyone fucking crazy?
Yeah.
Well,
Because I think that's what it did.
Well, I think it's because when we look at with social media, we're looking at a screen, and that screen is showing us people we know. But what we're seeing is not real, and we know that. We're not stupid. We understand that people are putting the best face onto the internet. So we're seeing this truth that we understand is a falsity, and that's infecting every single thing of how we're viewing the world. We both
Interesting.
believe in what's there and disbelieve it as well.
Interesting.
I like that.
It's like an epistemological crisis.
This is another like buzzword my partner Rachel has brought up. She philosophizes on social media and how it affects us a lot, and she has used the term hyper reality a lot.
Ooh.
When it comes to like our relationships with social media and the interweb world. So that's
Hyper.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I did want to make another point, getting back to like how shitty everything in the world is.
Or seems and is.
Seems. So I'd like to say seems because I was recently listening to a different podcast. Sorry, guys.
Oh. There are other podcasts?
Damn it!
It's called the Revolutionary Left podcast, and I've been trying to just... I'm just trying to learn as much as possible about perspectives that are not mine. And there was an episode they did about hip-hop and race, and one of the guests, I wish I remembered his name, but he mentioned that when Donald Trump was elected, every white person was like, oh, God damn, what the hell? But every other president has been Donald Trump to people of color in a lot snakier ways and a lot slimier ways and a lot of covert ways. And this is the first time we're being confronted with it very belligerently.
Yes. Yeah.
And again, these are not my words. This is not my perspective, but that's a perspective I really like. I heard, and it shocked me, and it made me very depressed.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Frank mentioned the constitutional crisis potentially being a thing, like this imperial presidency expansion of presidential powers. And it's going to be challenged in the courts. And these are powers that existed, but this sort of carte blanche use of them is a little new. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, he's doing this for political reasons, this fictitious thing. That's nothing new. I mean, Eisenhower had Operation Wetback for crying. Literally, that's what it's called.
Wow.
That's what
shocking.
It's called in the record, where native-born U.S. citizens who were of Mexican descent were deported and couldn't argue their case because they were Spanish speakers. There's yellow journalism. We faked the sinking of the Maine to invade Cuba. I mean, the fucking Bay of Tolkien.
The Bay of Tolkien.
The Bay, when those...
The Bay of when we fucking sniped J.R.R. Tolkien. We murked that guy. Shot him in the head.
When we did a false flag attack on some Rohani riders.
The Rohirrim. Killed those Rohirrim.
And blamed it on the Orokai.
See, that all of that is all of that is true. That it's all been less in your face about it, and it's always been happening. The thing that is truly different is the fucking rise in hate crime throughout this fucking country.
Yeah.
There is a significant rise of hate crimes, either implicitly or explicitly tied to the president.
Yeah.
In ways that should be alarming to most right-thinking people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Although I will say, like, Tim, to your point, and this was something that
and my point was not to say that we're taking anything too seriously or anything.
Oh,
yeah. No,
No,
this is, everything is happening is very real,
Yeah.
and it's very scary, and it's horrifying, and I hope everybody feels loved.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, to your point, like, to bolster your point about what you said about, what was the podcast called? Revolutionary Left?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, that's that it's cool that they said that, because, like, one of the things about the Donald Trump era that struck me as being, like, unique, and I talked about this back when, you know, for about 3 weeks on this podcast, we were talking about the Jamal Khashoggi stuff. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, the resolution to it was Donald Trump wrote a thing where he said, you know, look, even if the Saudi prince directly ordered this murder of a dissident journalist who was, you know, possessor of a U.S. green card, we have too much financially vested in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to do anything about it. So what made that unique was it's masks off. We're not even acting like we have any sort of shared values with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia anymore. We're acknowledging that it is all transactional and that it is pure, unrepentant, demonic capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
we're
that's
just not hiding anything anymore.
That's the belligerence, I think. And it's the fact that he's just not trying to hide anything. That's
a benefit, and it's sort of a downside, but it's a benefit because I think it wakes more people up.
Absolutely. That's the benefit that I see is, like, I've never had as many conversations like I've had like these with people before. Like, and granted, I've not been an adult voting for very long, but like,
brag.
Wait, how old are you?
I'm 24.
God damn it!
Yeah. But that doesn't matter.
Oh, Tim's my son.
Oh yeah. Tom's my dad for sure. This is the Plaid Dads podcast.
Holy shit!
We should all invite our dads.
Oh god!
Nope,
and just they'll replace us, right?
I wouldn't be on board for that.
We don't have to be here for it. We just record them talking to each other about nothing.
Yeah. That's
We'll give them some bullet points, but
so 4 out of 4 of the people involved here ethnically Irish in some extraction.
Yeah.
So, and Tom has off the boat Irish father. So when you put an off the boat Irish person with a bunch of Irish Americans, that's like
oh shit.
That's like every day of his life. Yeah,
I guess so.
In this region. Yeah. Well, okay. I'm just gonna make one last little point about our Trumpy poos and the hate crimes. To use a chemistry analogy, so the human cost and the damage it does is abhorrent, and human lives can't be replaced. The damage it does to people can't be undone, only lived with, and it has knock-on effects. All this is true. But to use a sloppy analogy, I think Trump is more of a catalyst than he is a new substance in the chemical equation. He's not he's not some new reactor that's changing things. I think there was a bunch of shit that was ready to react, but it just wasn't being activated.
Right.
And then he's the catalyst. He's still there. He hasn't changed. He'll be there when it's done, probably. But he's spurred this shit on, and it's But that said, the human toll and the psychic toll it has on everybody who just hearing about it is real and probably immeasurably large. So, net negative.
That negative experience, 0 out of 10 would not vote for again.
Get Frank. Frank, did you vote for him? Just as a goof?
No. I remember, like, Justin, do you remember the day after the election?
Yeah.
Well, Tom, you and I were working together on the night of the election.
Yeah,
and the day after, Justin and I were working together.
Yeah.
But, like, the night of, Tom and I were experiencing profound anxiety.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And then the day after, it was just shell shock. But anyway,
I was watching it that night at home, and I had to take a moment to walk around in my field, listening to the soundtrack to Hamilton and
you
weeping.
yeah,
that was a bad night. That was probably one of the worst nights of my life. Is when he got elected.
Yeah.
But anyway,
We want to do that real quick.
Yeah, where was everyone?
It was that night like. So I was with Frank and at the bookstore, and I, at one point the place was pretty empty, and it was I was just checking my phone. And I was just the classic. It's still good. It's still good.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit.
The Simpsons. It's still good. She has a path. She has a path.
And getting more despondent. And I remember at one point I was in charge of the music. I just started putting on like soothing CDs I had from my car. So I just put on "If You're Feeling Sinister" by Belle and Sebastian.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I am feeling sinister.
Yeah, and then I went home, and it seemed like he was winning, and I had a feeling of unrelenting doom and panic, and I felt a murderous and suicidal rage, and I punched a hole through the wall and cut my hand real bad, and I had to call my dad at like midnight. So, and he said, we'll get breakfast tomorrow and talk about it. I was literally waiting for mushroom clouds on the horizon.
Yeah, no, I think all of us were. So my experience was like, obviously, you and I were together that night, and there was no one in the store, more or less. We were like just watching election coverage on our phones,
Basically.
and it was us two, our pal Lindsay.
Shout out to Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay.
And a coworker who only worked for us for a short time, a guy named Colin, who made a pretty big impression on all of us because he was a great guy.
True.
But we were all watching our phones, and there was a point where, Tom, you and I were looking at our phones, and like the percentages in Florida started to take a turn, and we both got sort of low level, like, terrified.
Yeah.
And we were trying not to like explain it to Lindsay.
Oh.
I remember being the mode. We were trying to be like, oh well, there's still Michigan and Wisconsin and all the Rust Belt states, and like,
Yeah.
she has a path through Iowa and all the battleground states. Like, spoiler alert, all the states she fucking lost.
Yeah, it was pretty frantic. It wasn't like a concerted effort. It sounds like slightly condescending to Lindsay, but I suppose it is, because it was that feeling. It was like we were her parents, and we're trying to like, oh no, just category 3 just means we just have to maybe go to grandma's house in her basement if it gets too windy.
Yeah, and then
We're still
I
there
went
in Grandma's
home.
basement.
Yeah, and Grandma's dead, and she locked the door.
Oh no!
And thus began Plaid Labs.
Yeah, I went home, and it was around the time Florida was starting to solidify for Trump, which meant that he was going to win, pretty much. And then my girlfriend called me sobbing because she was worried that she would lose her health insurance because he promised to repeal Obamacare.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, that was a concern of mine. Tim?
I remember walking No, me and my brother were in our family home watching the news roll in, and I was changing rooms every 30 seconds, and when the panic started to set in, like you said, unrelenting, that was quite how it felt. And then we went for a walk with his dog, and I remember getting back and I was like, I need to go to my room, and I started sobbing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I woke up the next day sobbing, and I had therapy, and I sobbed again.
Look, guys,
Yeah.
we don't have to worry about anything because Kamala Harris is gonna fucking ride her way
Speaking of
into the
surreal,
presidency on fake weed smoke.
Oh God! Speaking of surreal horror,
Doomed.
Shut up, Frank. We're not going there. We're not going there, Frank. Let's talk about something happy and light and lively, like Mulholland Drive. Hey, do you guys hear a song? Do you hear a song?
Wait, is that a song?
Oh, what?
Is it a song? Tim, do you hear that song?
No.
Is that a fucking song? Where's the fucking song?
Jesus.
Cue music.
I can't believe it. I'm just so excited to be here. I'm in this tree place.
This one comes highly recommended.
Tree place. What are you doing?
Get out of the car. Yeah, the girl is still missing.
What's wrong?
I don't know who I am.
I wonder where you were going. Mulholland Drive. Come on, it'll be just like in the movies. We'll pretend to be someone else. Silencio.
This is all an illusion.
You want to know who you are, don't you?
Where's this going?
It's been a very strange day.
Getting stranger.
Silencio.
This week on the pod.
The pod?
The pod.
The pod.
The pod.
The pod.
The pod.
We watched David Lynch's 2001 masterpiece, Mulholland Drive,
Drive.
starring Naomi Watts
Silencio.
and Laura Herring and Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yes.
And
Very.
That ain't no way to treat your wife, buddy. I don't care what she's done.
thorough.
Do you know a fun thing about the Billy Ray Cyrus thing with this movie?
What's that?
So Billy Ray Cyrus contributes being in this movie to bringing a demonic curse on his family that led to the Miley Cyrus Wild Child period
Oh
of
my
2012,
God.
2013.
So here's my hot take on that.
I love that.
That follows.
Yeah, kind of.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Like when I look at how she went off the rails, or on the rails, if you will, there was a certain David Lynch quality to it.
Definitely. And I think she kind of like was able to steer her own path, and like she seems to be like a full human being.
Yeah, most people have some kind of wilderness time.
Yeah.
She
Bob now,
lived in
though,
South
right?
Philly for like a year.
What?
That was her like dirtbag period. She lived in South Philly, so
Yeah.
I don't think it was
Did
David
she
Lynch.
really
I
live
think
in
it was
South
did.
Philly?
Yeah,
she in South Philly.
she discovered twerking on South Street.
That's hardly affiliated.
Also, this film stars Robert Forster.
Oh yeah,
Robert Forster.
he gets top billing for
Top
one
billing
scene.
for one scene.
It is also the last David Lynch project to feature Michael J. Anderson before Michael J. Anderson went off the rails and accused David Lynch of molesting his own daughter.
Which is completely baseless.
It's totally insane. That's why, for anyone who doesn't know, Michael J. Anderson was the man from Another Place in Twin Peaks. He was the little dancing guy in the Black Lodge, and he is not in Twin Peaks: The Return. He is replaced by a tree with a brain.
Yes.
And the reason why he was replaced is because he went on Facebook a couple of years ago and accused David Lynch of molesting his own daughter, Jennifer. And it was completely baseless and nonsense, and the guy's clearly nuts. But he was in this movie.
As basically
dude.
the same thing. We'll get into it. Let's get into it. We're going to break this thing into 3 parts, and we're going to tell you the plot of the first part right now. Here it comes from Wikipedia. Subsection, plot. A dark-haired woman is the sole survivor of a car crash on Mulholland Drive.
Silencio.
A winding road high in the Hollywood Hills. Injured and in shock, she makes her way down into Los Angeles and sneaks into an apartment. Later that morning, an inspiring actress named Betty Elms arrives at the apartment, which is normally occupied by her Aunt Ruth. Betty is startled to find the woman, who has amnesia and assumes the name Rita, after seeing a poster for the film Gilda starring Rita Hayworth. To help the woman remember her identity, Betty looks in Rita's purse, where she finds a large amount of money and an unusual blue key. At a diner called Winky's, a man tells his companion about a nightmare in which he dreamt there was a horrible figure behind the diner. When they investigate, the figure appears, causing the man with the nightmare to collapse in fright. Elsewhere, director Adam Kesher has his film commandeered by mobsters who insist
Played by Justin Theroux.
Commandeered by mobsters who insist he cast an unknown actress named Camilla Rhodes as the lead in his film. Adam resists, but after being thrown out of his house where he finds his wife cheating on him with Billy Ray Cyrus, he learns that his bank has closed his line of credit and he is broke. He agrees to meet a mysterious figure called the Cowboy, who urges him...
Silencio.
Because I'm a cowboy!
who urges him to cast Camilla Rhodes for his
Who
own
I think
good.
was played actually by our own Frank McDevitt.
Yes, he was.
He was the cowboy.
If you see me again,
He was really
doing bad.
I don't think you knew what I meant. Meanwhile, a bungling hitman attempts to steal a book full of phone numbers and leaves 3 people dead. All right, Act 1. Let's get into it.
Act 1, Scene 1.
Justin,
Yes?
talk about that Winky's scene.
There's a man in back of this place. He's the one who's doing it. I can see him through the wall. I can see his face. I hope that I never see that face ever outside of a dream.
Okay, so this is a devil
Best
movie to me. So one night, many years ago, at 3 a.m, I was going through a list of the scariest movie scenes of all time. And none of
Just
them
for
were
fun?
Just for fun. And none of them were that scary to me. And then I came upon...
Did they feature Exorcist 3?
Is that the one where a lady walks past quickly?
Yeah, through the frame in the hospital.
That's pretty creepy. Also, the one from Signs, the birthday party with the alien.
Oh, that still chills me.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
But it came upon this scene, and it's just a scene of a man describing his dream. And that in the dream, he sees this figure behind the diner, and it was the scariest thing to him. And I watched the scene with no context to the movie, and it gave me severe panic attacks for multiple weeks after. I had to speak to my therapist about it. It truly affected me.
It was sorely tempting in that time to stand behind a wall as Justin was approaching, and then slowly come out. But it was so serious that we pretty quickly realized it's not a gag we should do.
Yeah.
But of course, the famous I don't know how they're credited, but the witch is actually it's a woman, I believe.
It is a woman. Yeah.
And just the way it slowly comes from behind the wall, and then that brief shot of it going back.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's not a jump scare.
No.
Because
no,
it
you
doesn't
know it's coming.
get you the way that a jump scare does.
Mm.
But it's creepier.
Because it's broad daylight.
And it's also been like explained to us that this is what he sees.
Yes.
So we're expecting it as we approach this wall.
Exactly. And I think that's what I came to realize about it. Of why it is the most terrifying thing, at least to me, is that fact that he's laying out exactly what's going to happen. It's
beforehand. Yeah.
It's his fears are real, which I think I took into my soul to be the insecurities and fears that you have about yourself are true.
Yeah, and this particular actor, the guy's name is Patrick Fischler, and he's in a lot of other stuff, but he is most famous for this scene, and he's in Mad Men for a period, and then he is in Twin Peaks: The Return. He returns to David Lynch's stable as the mysterious mob boss, who is just just fucking murdered. Like, it's never explained. Like, he is the keeper of the box.
Yeah.
With the entity in New York. And then he just gets murdered.
That's
right. But he is, like, sort of in David Lynch's sort of sphere. But he has this face that's very sort of amenable to fear.
Yes.
And amenable to anxiety. And the way that he is describing this dream to his companion in the diner, and then the way he reacts to the sort of garbage entity behind Winkies is so affecting.
Yeah.
Because his fear is palpable. His anxiety is palpable. Because he has like this sort of big, wide face that's really expressive. And it's just one of the scariest, weirdest scenes in cinema.
And it seems like a total non sequitur, but it establishes a few things that become important later on in the film. One is the importance of Winkies by itself. It gives us the character. I forget what it's credited as, but the demonic witch character.
I think it's just it's credited as the man behind the.
Is it? I thought it was something. It was like the bum,
the homeless, or something along those lines. Which me and Justin got into it about
bum.
this.
It's just credited as the bum.
Me and Justin got into this, the allegorical significance of this character later on. But at this point in the film, it just feels like a non sequitur and this kind of like cheeseball narrative that feels very corny, surreal David Lynch, and it just increases as the film goes on. We see the car crash that gives the dark-haired lady amnesia and Rita and sends her on her journey interacting with Betty.
Which that whole thing, what's incredible about this film in all of David Lynch's work is I think honestly until Twin Peaks: The Return, he hasn't juggled tones so well, because you're talking about that there's this cheesy kind of narrative that's the Naomi Watts in the beginning.
I think he did for his whole career, but we're going to talk about it.
He did for his whole career, but
the shift is so
within
deliberate.
the same scenes even. Naomi Watts during the beginning of the film, we'll get to it, is very naive and is acting very early film star, wide-eyed and like a bunny rabbit. And then the dark-haired woman is such hardcore like noir.
Yeah.
She's a femme fatale.
Yeah.
She looks like a lot of the actresses that Howard Hughes would cast as leads.
She looks like Rita Hayworth.
Yeah,
specifically, and that's where she gets the name from. And like Naomi Watts is the ingenue, the blonde.
Yeah, there's a contrast there, light and dark. Cool. What else do we get? We meet Justin Theroux, and oh my god, some
Theroux.
Academy.
He's Louis Theroux's half brother.
Academy Award to fucking the actors and Billy Ray Cyrus, the actress playing his girlfriend who's cheating on him. And then the big heavy mob guy who comes in. Which, in a way, fucking for real, because you don't realize till the end and you look at the film holistically that, no, they were being very specifically directed to act that way. It was all very intentional and deliberate. Including the funniest scene in the film, which is the hitman killing spree. Which, if you don't...
I don't...
He goes in and he's talking to the guy with some of the worst dialogue. And then he shoots the one guy, but then he realizes his bullet has gone through the wall and hit another woman who he has to then go in and kill.
It's hilarious. And talking about juggling tone, the beginning of that scene, it's being such stereotypical and it's super fucking cheesy. But because it's David Lynch, we're accepting of it. Like, he sometimes goes this way, and it's broken up by intense random violence. The man is shot dead, and the scene bottoms out. But then the comedy of errors
something bit me in the ass, the lady thinks. and then he has to kill the janitor. No, come here, man. No, come here.
David Lynch's comedy instincts are very old-fashioned. And he has when it comes to comedy, he has a very Brechtian eye for what's funny, because he wants it to sort of break your sense of reality. And he has a very stagey, very old-fashioned idea of comedy, which is actually sort of amenable to Frasier.
Interesting.
Because Frasier has a very intricate sort of old-fashioned eye for what comedy is.
You know, that sequence with the bungling murderer could have been Niles. In fact, it reminds me of when they did the radio play, Old-Fashioned Entertainment, and Niles loses it and uses the balloons to kill everyone in the radio play.
I'm just going to take this gun off the table. Sorry about that, O'Toole. I guess we'll never hear your fascinating piece of the puzzle. Or yours, Cragen and Peppo. Could the McAllister sisters stand back to back? I'm short on bullets. Thank you. What was your name again, dear?
Miss Thorndike.
Thank you. And also Mr. Wing. And of course, one final bullet for myself, so the mystery will die with me.
Anyway.
But that sort of like David Lynch's driving instinct for what is funny. And it's what I think he enjoys. And like, I don't think he cares whether audiences receive that or not. Like, that's just sort of his driving instinct for how he constructs things. And I think literally he just put the bungling hitman part in the movie because it reminded him of something that would be in a movie in the 30s or the 40s.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. I have a strong feeling. I don't think will be the popular opinion, but I have a strong feeling from this film. So I think perhaps let's move on to the middle bit. All right. Tim, if you could tell us what happened next.
Please, pretty please.
Silencio. So, continuing where Tom left off, while trying to learn more about Rita's accident, Betty and Rita go to Winky's and are served by a waitress named Diane, which causes Rita to remember the name Diane Selwyn. They find Diane Selwyn in the phone book and call her, but she does not answer. Betty goes to an audition where her performance is highly praised. A casting agent takes her to a soundstage where a film called The Sylvia North Story, directed by Adam, is being cast. When Camilla Rhodes auditions, Adam capitulates to casting her. Betty locks eyes with Adam, but she flees before she can meet him, saying she is late to meet a friend. And Betty and Rita go to Diane Selwyn's apartment and break in when no one answers the door. In the bedroom, they find the body of a woman who has been dead for several days. Terrified, they return to their apartment, where Rita disguises herself with a blonde wig. She and Betty have sex that night. At 2 a.m., Rita insists they go to a theater club, Silencio. The MC explains in different languages that everything is an illusion. Rebecca Del Rio comes on stage and begins singing the Roy Orbison song, Crying, in Spanish, then collapses while her vocals continue. Her performance was a recording. Betty finds a blue box in her purse that matches Rita's key. Upon returning to the apartment, Rita retrieves the key and finds that Betty has disappeared. Rita unlocks the box and it falls to the floor with a thump.
Bum, bum, bum.
I think this is a perfect time to bring up how fucking incredible Naomi Watts is in this film.
Amazing in this film.
I think I know where you're going. And I will let you go there.
We'll get to. I believe she, in a sense, plays 4 different characters, kind of.
Yeah.
Which
Sure.
a lot of this is looking forward to Twin Peaks: The Return.
This is his corpus. This is his body of work. Like, it's a Rosetta Stone for what he did before and what he's going to do after.
Mm-hmm. But we'll get to the 4th character Naomi Watts plays later on. But Naomi Watts in most of these the beginning segments of the film, the character herself is
cornbread middle America.
Exactly.
America's sweetheart.
Very whimsy.
Like Donna Reed.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
But there's a scene with her running lines with the brunette lady.
Yeah.
Where she is acting decently.
Yeah.
Like being a decent actor, which is it's very hard for an actor in a thing to do bad acting and decent acting. So that switch is like, oh, that's amazing. And then the audition scene is fucking incredible.
Fucking transcendent.
I'll let you guys talk about it.
Yeah, so...
No, yeah.
She's reading lines. She has a lead for an audition for an old friend of her aunt's who's like a screenwriter trying to get a film made. And that's what she's rehearsing. And then she runs it in a competent way with Rita, the brunette.
Before what? Before I kill you. Then they'd put you in jail. Then I cry, and then I say with big emotion, I hate you! I hate us both!
But then when she actually goes to the audition and she's actually standing against the man who's been cast as the male lead, this orange ball of wrinkles, and the scene is sort of like classic tawdry, forbidden love dialogue. But her delivery of it is so intensely sensual and sexual and charged and subtle.
I kill you.
Well, then they put you in jail.
I hate you. I hate us both.
And I just remember watching this feeling so bad for the old orange man.
Yeah.
Like, I just having somebody act that at you at any level. I felt bad for his character. I felt bad for the real actor, the man. I felt bad. And it was otherworldly. And
a great piece of acting.
And totally a different texture to sort of the deliberate hamminess of sort of the first 2/3 of this film. The first reality of the film.
Yeah, this is where I noticed like the really extreme shift. That I was like, okay, this is like very uncharacteristic. This is not how I was expecting Naomi Watts to play.
Yeah, it wasn't like her character.
Yeah, not at all, and especially the character she was even portraying was so different from who we have seen of her so far.
One last thing I want to say about the scene is the director says to them, and it's something that I think is a Rosetta Stone to David Lynch's work.
A manifesto.
A manifesto.
A manifesto.
Jesus.
That's how he talks.
A manifesto.
Jesus Christ.
It's Ross Perot.
He says,
Ross Perot.
he says, don't play it something like, we'll cut it in.
Why would you want to play a movie on your fucking phone?
Jesus. He says, don't play it real until it's real. And I think that's exactly what David Lynch does throughout all of his work.
I just want to call attention to a scene real quick, which is the scene where Betty auditions for, or she's gone to a audition for the film Adam is making. And they have this moment of recognition between the two of them, but then she's pulled away by a need of Rita, and I think that's a very telling dynamic for stuff later on.
Yes.
So then we have the Silencio scene.
We have the Silencio scene,
which is kind of like the key.
Yes,
literally
to the whole film.
Oh yeah, and then they fucked. Well, first, Rita puts on a blonde wig, and suddenly, they're kind of turning into the same person.
Yeah, it's a very. I think we talked. Oh no, me. Wait, me and you talked about it, Frank. Maybe off pod about the movie First Reformed.
Yes, yeah.
Where,
we talked about it off pod.
Where I think it's a.
I think it is a deathless masterpiece that will stand the test of time, and you are a stupid, bad, and wrong person.
No. I think it's a very good piece of art because it made me think about how much I hated it. No, I didn't hate it, but what I said is that movie is very much Vertigo, and not Vertigo. Yeah, Vertigo.
No, it is not.
It is 100% Vertigo. It's a direct shot for shot remake. They even got Jimmy Stewart in it.
Yeah. I'm so mad about the environment.
Anyway, so there are like some slight like nods towards that kind of dynamic. I think Vertigo's an overrated film, and it's referenced too much.
You're dead to me.
Eat a shit, you sponge!
I'm going to kill you.
Rear Window is the superior film. I'm sorry if it's not as artistic. You fucking pretentious.
They're both great. They're both great.
We'll get to it at the end of this discussion. Oh, you believe me.
Jesus, come on, move it on.
Anyway, so yeah, they make love with each other, and I think Tom, did you say so? Tim, you said you noticed the change beginning with Naomi Watts in the audition scene. Yeah. Tom, I believe you said you noticed the change during the sex scene.
Yes.
I may have. I don't know. Well, yeah. I mean, I noticed the film I kind of started comparing it to in my mind was Persona, Ingmar Bergman film.
A very direct influence.
So then, in the middle of the night, they awaken, and a strange uneasiness moves them to go to this
Silencio.
and we get the impresario who is making a very strong point that there is no orchestra, everything's pre-recorded.
Hey, Banda! It is all a tape. Il n'est pas d'orchestre. It is an illusion.
And then we get a long, sultry, visually stunning performance of a Roy Orbison song, and then the singer faints dead, and they're in the audience, and they find this tremendously compelling. They are enraptured by the proceedings on stage, and that's when the box is discovered. So this is a key moment. This realization of unrealness is a key moment, and that's when normally you would say you would get the key to a problem, but in this case you got the box to the key.
Mm-hmm. I just want to, that whole scene, they keep stressing that this is not real. This is all pre-recorded, and they're reacting so strongly to it. And this is David Lynch giving his treatise on art. You know?
Yeah.
It's not real. None of this is real. David Lynch doesn't care to draw you into the narrative, if you get what I mean. Like so many things try to. Mm. You know what I mean? He's not going for realism. He is making a film for you to watch, or he is making. Let's
get to that.
It's an emotional experience, and plot is not his bag.
We're gonna have to have it out because I think that we have some disagreement on this point. So if Justin, you'll take us through our third act.
Okay, so just to refresh you, Rita unlocks the box and it falls to the floor with a thump. Diane what's going on? Diane Selwyn wakes up in her bed in the same apartment that Betty and Rita investigated. She looks exactly like Betty, but is a failed actress driven into a deep depression by her failed affair with Camilla Rhodes.
Who's that?
A successful actress who looks exactly like Rita. At Camilla's invitation, Diane attends a party at Adam's house on Mulholland Drive.
Oh, where have I heard that before?
At dinner, Diane states she came to Hollywood when her Aunt Ruth died and left her some money, and she met...
Jesus.
Camilla... and
God damn it.
Shut up! I'm reading here! And she met Camilla at an audition for the Sylvia North story. Another woman who looks like the Camilla Rhodes from earlier kisses Camilla, and they turn and smile at Diane. Adam and Camilla prepare to make an important announcement, but they dissolve into laughter and kiss while Diane watches crying. Later, Diane meets the hitman at Winky's, hiring him to kill Camilla. He tells her she'll find a blue key in her apartment when the job is completed. In her apartment, Diane looks at the blue key on her coffee table. Distraught, she is terrorized by hallucinations and runs screaming to her bed where she shoots herself. A woman at the theater whispers, "Silencio." I don't mean to jump ahead too much within this, but this film has in my mind, top 3 masturbation scenes. And I mean that legitimately.
The masturbation scene in this movie is viscerally upsetting.
Yes.
It is disturbing. It is sad. It fucking sucked.
So I know yours is Ocean Monster Love Fest. What's that called?
The Shape of Water, I think, has a wonderful,
excellent,
and necessary to the plot masturbation scene. And the
Love
other
that film.
And the other one is
Adaptation.
Yes,
has an amazing,
has several.
There's another one in a film called Spanking the Monkey by David O. Russell.
What's it about, Frank?
Where it's about that. The guy learns to masturbate in the movie called Spanking the Monkey, but ends up accidentally masturbating to his mom. Like that's
come on! Back on topic, Justin.
Yeah.
But I think there is a in each of those masturbation scenes there is a great inherent truth to the scenes. It's so upsetting in this film because I think it's the greatest moment of empathy from the audience to her in that moment in the film. I don't think I felt her emotions more than that scene, and the movie needed it. The movie needed to bring you into her mind, or else it wouldn't work.
I will say that perhaps was the emotional grounding point for the tonal shift represented in this last act of the film. This shifting of realities, changing of existential brains and universe space-time. So huge tonal shift where we're in that apartment. I should mention that in the Winkies scene with Betty and Rita, there was a waitress who looked vaguely like Naomi Watts named Diane with a Diane name tag, and that she had the same haircut as Naomi Watts woke up with in this new reality. And now suddenly, and later on, when they go to Winkies and she's hiring the hitman who should be their waitress except a name Naomi Watts-esque person with a name tag that says Betty. So this sort of interplay between the two realities is set up. I'll just get to my thesis on this. We can argue it. I personally think, this is my take on it, that basically the first 2/3 or 3/4 of the film was a insanity, guilt, and drug-induced hallucination of the Naomi Watts character as she is in the process of taking her own life. I know the Wikipedia synopsis has her shooting herself. That's what we see on film. But when she opens the drawer to retrieve the pistol from her nightstand, we also see blister packs of pills. I think that she didn't shoot herself. I think she took an overdose of pills, and this is her mind flickering off, created this fantasy. And I don't want to be reductivist about it. I think that nothing exists in an island, and I think everything you're saying is true. That a lot of what we're seeing is David Lynch communicating with the universe through his art, and there's an emotional validity to everything we've seen thus far. But I personally believe that in the alternate reality of this film, that everything up till now is an unreality. That is the distorted perception of events through the mind of the Naomi Watts character in her journey through jealousy and resentment, having her jilted, unrequited love murdered.
I think that that could be the case. I don't think David Lynch is interested in making that case. To me, I don't need that as much. What I think this film does is a mirror, and that mirror is the box. And how you get through there, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? If he just cut to black and then started the last segment, just as a juxtaposition of these two things, I think the point is still made. And I think that I don't know. I mean, interpretations are fine, but I think David Lynch believes in weird shit more than it just being a guilt-ridden dream. He is somebody who I think believes in this box that is a pocket dimension. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I just don't agree. Frank, what do you think?
I half agree. Like, he has weird beliefs about spirituality and transcendence. So I think he does have this sort of baseline belief about shadow selves and like doppelgangers that he shares with Mark Frost, who is like a sort of a dyed-in-the-wool Jungian, which is where a lot of the Twin Peaks milieu comes from.
So what do we think about this movie? I think it's a
pretty good.
It's good. It's a good one.
What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
It's pretty weird.
I have to say, as a not as David Lynch fan as you guys are,
fucking go kill yourself.
Yeah,
no.
Choose your words very carefully, my friend.
I just I have seen Twin Peaks, and this was my first David Lynch film after. So I experienced Twin Peaks at a time where I was not ready for Twin Peaks, I think. So this was weird, and I needed some adjusting to really start to follow what was happening at all.
And Lynch is an acquired taste in the very real sense.
Yeah,
you know, it's like what's that thing that tastes like soap to some people?
Oh, cilantro.
Cilantro. David Lynch is cilantro, and it might taste like
or like black coffee.
Or like black coffee, and it might taste like shit to you, and that's completely fine and accurate.
Yeah. But I'm willing to try.
But anyway, you're wrong.
Yeah, I'm fine with being wrong.
Let's cyberbully Tim.
Seems like a fair.
I just want one last little note here that I think this is, and we already touched on this. This is a roadmap to Twin Peaks: The Return.
Yes,
it is. It really is.
Especially that shift in the final segment is exactly the shift between the previous 17 episodes and the last episode of The Return.
Pocket dimensions.
Pocket dimensions.
Music.
There's a rusty light on the pines tonight. Some corn wine, Lord Romero. Into the bones of the birches and the spires of the churches jutting out from the shadow.
We listened to Joanna Newsom's second album, East, co-produced by Van Dyke Parks and semi-recorded by Steve Albini. That little beanie. Oh, that little Albini.
So East is a made-up place. So do we know? I don't know offhand a lot of the information, but there's East is essentially a myth, fairy tale land, and because of the daughter of the king there, she is accidentally flooded this town, so it's this city underwater.
What do we think of it, guys?
This is a paradigm-shifting masterpiece because, like, her album before this, The Milk-Eyed Mender, is really good. That's a really enjoyable album. But this is, like...
But that was still kind of, like, twee, folky...
Yeah.
A song was used in, like, a car commercial...
Yeah, and this is a
Which one?
roadmap to Joanna Newsom going forward.
Bean. Yeah,
that's pretty weird.
Yeah,
in a car commercial. What kind of car?
I kind of feel the same way about.
I hope so.
About this album
a
as
bicycle? Are you thinking of bicycles?
Jesus Christ! Yes, it was used in a commercial for the concept of bicycles
or horses. Yeah.
Anyway, I think that East is an excellent roadmap to like every Joanna Newsom album after that. You know, Have One on Me and Divers are both great. And Milk-Eyed Mender is sort of like a test run of like a very twee, harpy album. And I think like that's a good album. But I
think it's a great album.
Like an artistic leap forward.
Yeah, and it was a massive leap too.
Yes,
like it was like, okay, now an entire orchestra, and this incredible arranger composer is involved.
Yeah,
and it just really flew it to the next level of this like step in a career and what a step can be in someone's career.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I think it is a great leap forward, and because of that, it doesn't all hit for me. I think it's sometimes a little overproduced. I think Van Dyke Park's orchestration is beautiful, but I think at times what Joanna Newsom is able to do later on in terms of instrumentation, it doesn't seem fully there in this album. My favorite...
This is how they were recorded. She recorded her harp and singing, and then they're like, "All right, let's put an orchestra to it." You know, so there wasn't. So maybe there wasn't like the forethought of like, okay, maybe this is where this string swell will happen, or this other musical theme that might be addressed with strings and such.
Yeah. My favorite track on the album is Sawdust and Diamonds.
There's a bell in my ears. There's the white roar. Drop a bell down the stairs. Hear it fall forevermore. Hear it fall forevermore.
And I think it's because it is so stripped back and it is so minimalistic. It's also a perfect example of something that Joanna Newsom does extremely well, which is building tension and holding onto that tension for minutes, and then relieving that tension with a bang.
I think my favorite track is Only Skin.
Hands in your pockets, stubbly running to where I'm unfresh, undressed and yawning. Well, what is this craziness, this crazy talking? You caught some small death when you were sleepwalking.
The like 16-minute thing that she did with her then partner Bill Callahan from Smog.
Hardly did it with him.
He was in at the end.
He was very small feature on that track.
Yes.
Yeah. But that is a great track. It's kind of like half the album.
It really is,
Yeah.
and I have to agree that it's one of those tracks that really stands out to me because of just where it goes, and I think that's something to be said of Joanna's music, is just like where she can go with a song is not necessarily where most people will go.
Yeah. I think in this album especially, Joanna Newsom is a rhythm machine.
Yeah.
She reminds me very much in a certain senses of Tom Waits in their use of their voice as an interesting instrument, as a percussive instrument. Her lyrics are percussive. Yeah. The way she sings them and can string out a one-syllable word into a cascade of and it's not athletic singing necessarily. It's not
it's
really
not about
impressive if you get what I mean. But she is the lyrics and vocals are, I feel, equal to the harp.
Absolutely.
Equal to the rest of the instruments.
She often like invalidates her voice as well as something like that's untrained and childish, and I resent that she says that because it's like I think one of the most thoughtful performances of voice I've ever heard on a record.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, I got into Joanna Newsom with the Milk-Eyed Mender I had this CD in my car. My brother Christopher, shout out to Chris, borrowed my car and listened to the album. And he said something that forever changed my view of Joanna Newsom, which was she sings exactly like Lisa Simpson. Especially on that first album. She said, I will drop a clip in at this point to prove the point.
They have the mill and we have the power.
Yes.
Come gather round, children, it's high time ye learned about a hero named Homer and a devil named Burns. So we'll march day and night by the big cooling tower. They have the plant, but we have the power.
Now do classical gas.
That's really funny.
Jazz man.
But she does have a weird voice.
Absolutely.
She does, and her voice got less weird after she had throat surgery. She had like cancerous nodes on her throat.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're cancerous. I think she probably had vocal nodules, which are if you sing in a way that is not super healthy, you can develop these nodules on your vocal folds. They're kind of like calluses, and they start off at like calluses, and it makes it impossible to sing. A lot of singers get them, but if they get their own blood supply, and to your point, they might have been precancerous or something, they turn into these big like fucking glowworm looking gloppy things on your. It's disgusting. Go on YouTube and just look up vocal fold surgery. It's awful. Julie Andrews, it ruined her voice.
That's a shame.
Oh wow.
Something interesting is when I started listening to Joanna Newsom. At first, I heard Jackrabbits, which you put on a mix CD for me, Justin, and which is in Act 2 of Have One on Me, and it's this like really solemn, beautiful song, and it's like the exact kind of song that was the perfect entrance for me in my previous taste into Joanna Newsom, and but from there I actually started with experiencing an album. I started with Divers, the most recent.
Hell yeah.
Which I have to say is still one of my favorites, and Ease is the last one I got to. And so therefore I have the least time and history with it, but I think I really love I really love what she can do on her own without anything, because like the orchestra is really fantastic, but at some time I think you're right, you were kind of mentioning this earlier, Justin, that it's not necessary for her music and her message and her the feelings that she evokes. It's not necessary for an orchestra to be a part of that,
because an orchestra has a very specific sound. It's a very big sound. It's something that overpowers her music. I think in Have One on Me and on Divers, she finally figured out how to complement the song itself.
On my heart is heavy as an oil drum, and I don't wanna be alone. My heart is yellow as an acorn, and I have torn my soul apart from pulling on the silver
and I think it really has to do with that rhythm type of thing. All of her songs are very rhythmic, and the strings on this album, though beautiful and interesting and doing different things, counterpoints to the songs, they are kind of ethereal.
When I am sleeping, I cannot keep the night from coming in.
What Tim was saying earlier about how they tracked Joanna's main parts and then came back and overdubbed the orchestration. That made a lot of sense to me. Definitely it's not as well integrated as it is with later records. Like I've been listening to Divers, and it's integrated. It's integral to the arrangement, and it just kind of feels like just sort of like almost like Mickey Mouse-ish sort of sprinklings on top. You know what I mean? That kind of really ratchets up the whimsy meter in a way that I know she can be a bit more serious.
Yeah, I mean, Milk-Eyed Bender, I think, is probably her worst record. By probably a wide margin.
I kind of legitimately think it's so different from the rest of her albums that I can't even compare it. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They're all different experiences for me. That they are each. It really depends on my mood. And oftentimes I can listen to Joanna Newsom because she's someone I'm so fascinated by. But so it really depends on my mood. So like it's if I'm feeling I guess more simply, if I want a more straightforward song, I'm going to listen to Milk-Eyed Bender. But if I want to like take some more time to like think, or if I want to dive into like a really long, luscious story, that's when I'm going to get into East.
Do you listen to Divers when you want to dive?
I listen to Divers when I want to dive.
I will say, a big point to Milk-Eyed Bender is that it was the first thing ever to introduce to me the term poetaster.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I've said that on many occasions, and I think that's a wonderful word.
It's a great word.
She is. She seems like kind of a weirdo.
She definitely is.
She's
dating fucking Andy Samberg.
Of
course she's a
She's
weirdo.
married
She's
to Andy
married
Samberg.
to Andy
had
Samberg.
His baby.
Yes,
Their baby,
Andy
not
Samberg
his.
of with Dick
No, it's
in a
weird.
Box.
It's his baby.
I just had sex with Joanna Newsom.
She worked on Lonely Island music with them.
Did she?
She has assisted. I don't know which tracks or anything, but like it's in her credits as a musician in the world.
I became Joanna Newsom's in my top 3 musical artists with Tom Waits and the Handsome Family.
Absolutely.
When I first heard
Handsome Family, not as good as Drive By Truckers.
Shit, you
Not
funge.
as good as Joanna Newsom.
Her music did weird things to me in it, and it really blew my mind. And then when I found out that she was married to Andy Samberg, and I've heard interviews with her, and you realize she's a regular person. That it's like
she's just a normal lady.
She is in my opinion, a goddamn genius. She's amazing, and it's the added level of she's just a person that she could so easily wear flower dresses and like flowers in her hair and have this ethereal personality.
Jump cut to the cover of this record.
Well, no, exactly.
Justin just wants to skeet in Joanna Newsom.
Oh my God! What the hell is wrong with you, Frank? Jesus Christ!
Everyone in the room is bright red. Frank is dying, as we can see on the video monitor.
Jesus fuck. But she is a genuine artist, and I
just want to.
Jesus fuck.
I would like to add one more thing. That it's. Let's just move on from that. That she has quite literally changed the way I think about songs and what songs can be.
Yeah.
And it's so annoying now to hear people say like a song is too long because there is so much that is so valuable in every second of one of her songs that are not thinking about the time spent listening.
If I may, real quick, talk about my album that I recorded a few months ago. One of my big things with it was they're all like very short songs, and what I wanted to do was have a single complete thought and just be done with it as soon as I did that. And in listening to Joanna Newsom, her 17-minute song is a single complete thought. Right. You can't cut it down.
Yeah. No, you would miss every any verse, you know.
Even though much of like the length of her songs is like 2 minutes of vamping on a chord. Right. On like a single, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's nothing self-indulgent about it, which is a review that I saw a lot about her records. Some might argue that this is self-indulgent because of its length, and it's just
Robert
missing the point.
Yeah, Robert Christgau in particular had a pretty damning review of Is that I won't read, but if you want to look it up, just Google Robert Christgau Is Joanna Newsom, and he hated it, but he liked every other Joanna Newsom record after and before. But like this was like a weird breaking point for him.
That's a shame.
I don't agree with that, but I can see that. There is something a little not quite fully formed, I think, about this album, even though it is obviously a ginormous artistic step forward.
Yeah, I think this is her paradigm shift. I think this is her just major artistic statement. Yeah. This is her masterpiece.
Yeah, this is her identifying piece, really. Yeah. This is what made Joanna Newsom. Because before she was a freak folk artist with Milk Eyed Men.
Right. Yeah, she just played the harp.
Yeah. And she could have had a full career just doing that.
Yeah.
If there's an analogy to be made, I feel like this is like Brighter Later by Nick Drake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of how tonally...
It's like Pink Clouds and then this.
Tonally, it's not 100% there because things are just coming later, being overdubbed. Like Pink Moon, you see the full power of herself by herself. That's where Nick Drake plays by himself. And what's the other one?
What, 5 Leaves Left?
5 Leaves Left. He's also great. Frasier!
Fuck this stupid song. Fuck this Graphic as a Star by Josephine Foster's better.
I like Kate Bush.
I would say, lads, this is the funniest episode of Frasier we've done so far.
Hey, shut the fuck up. I didn't do my thing yet.
Go ahead.
Dr. Frasier Crane's ex-wife is in town. Things get silly, they fuck. This week on the pod, Frasier's Crane Season 1 episode something or other. Lilith's back in town or some shit. What do you have to say, Frank?
This is the episode where Lilith comes back. It's really funny.
It's a solid gold, hilarious classic.
It's funny. It's touching.
Yeah. It's heart fucking breaking.
Talk about empathy. That moment.
There is an amazing line about a minute in. There's an amazing Kelsey Grammer delivery that I feel like is in the Tom and Justin pantheon of Kelsey Grammer deliveries. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
Do we have a pantheon?
Which is...
Well, Seattle, we have a celebrity of sorts on the line. This is my ex-wife, Lilith.
What do you mean by celebrity?
Oh, they know you.
Oh, God. We see the trope of the comedically outmoded psychological schools of thought of Frasier.
Yeah. He is a Freudian. She is a sort of Skinner behavioral therapist.
Modern CBT type. A bucket of cold water thrown on his whimsical practice. A bucket of cold water in every sense. We have Daphne having psychic headaches caused by
Once
her mere
again,
presence.
Moon is a psychic.
They stopped doing this like 6 months later, but like they were going hard.
Yeah.
If Martians watched this show, they would synopsize it by saying, a Mancunian psychic moves in with some Seattle people and hilarity ensues. It's clearly the most interesting thing about this show.
Which, by the way, I'm ashamed to admit I once did read a bit of fan fiction of a X-Files Frasier crossover.
Oh my. You wrote it.
No, I'm writing the X-Files Twin Peaks Hellboy crossover. I also read a Twin Peaks Frasier crossover where Frasier and Niles went to the Double R Diner. It was still,
and eventually they become best friends with a guy named Tustin Totara.
Now, Niles, this is the exactly kind of earthy establishment that our modern peasant folk enjoy.
Exactly.
Well, now, Sheriff Truman, there's this bearded boy who is just the best. And he makes us so happy, and his name is Justin. He's cherry pie. Sheriff Truman, he's our best friend.
That's going to be my suicide note.
I'm a Hellboy. I am also here and love Justin.
Hellboy! Anyway, back to fucking Frasier.
No, we've switched realities. We've gone inside the blue box. Cinepal gloop. There is no orchestra.
Anyway, Lilith comes back in this episode. She is fucking hilarious.
Yes.
She's so empathic, too. I think we feel more for her than we ever did during Cheers.
Yeah.
She's so vulnerable.
Yeah.
She finds this letter in her apartment that Frasier had left for her, begging her to reconsider their divorce. The tragedy being that Frasier had written the letter a year previous and had since moved on with his life and was enjoying his new life in Seattle.
I don't even know what I'm doing here. I've just been so lonely over the last year. When I found your letter, it was like a life preserver. I'm raising a child alone. I'm scared. I always thought of myself as a strong and independent person, but the truth is I'm afraid. I guess that's why I convinced myself that I was still in love with you.
You mean you're not?
No. I'm not.
Well, that's good. I mean, so then what happened last night was only because you were lonely and I was...
We all know what you were, Frasier.
He was horny. He just wanted to skeet in Joanna Newsom. Like
Oh my God! I never said that!
Right in Joanna Newsom.
Jesus Christ! You said it so many times, there's no way you can cut them all out.
Oh, I'll find a way.
Joanna Newsom, if you're out there,
Joanna Newsom.
I never said or thought such things.
Yes, you did.
Jesus Christ! Let's not skip over a wonderful scene of Niles.
Skeets, motherfucker. Skeet,
Jesus
goddamn.
motherfucking
All these are being cut
Christ.
out. I just have to tell you, I cannot abide by that in the show. My coworkers listen to this.
All right, I don't want to skip over this wonderful scene of Niles counseling Frasier. It's very funny. Here's a clip.
It is.
Do you think I should see her again tonight? Frasier, like most patients who come to a therapist, you already know the answer to the question you're posing. You just want me to agree with your decision and support you, whether I share your opinion or not.
Yes, but I don't have an opinion in this case.
I'm sure you do.
But I don't.
Well, then I can't help you.
Broken Justin.
We're just...
Hey guys, I just want to skeet in Joanna Newsom. What a wonderful world this is.
We've got the sound.
Oh, what a wonderful world it could be.
You guys are sons of bitches, each and every one of you, except for you, Tim. Well, this is a good episode of Frasier. Okay, guys?
I highly recommend
it. Are you proud of yourselves? You broke me. You broke me. A sweet innocent lad from Liverpool. Let's recommend a thing to you. I got a couple things in my back pocket that you might like. Take a trip with me to the trunk of my car. I've got a few things that you might also like.
The Stinger's done.
Lots of
I'm not
things.
recording a new one every week.
Lots of stuff. Okay.
I'm fucking sorely tempted now to record a new Stinger with that song.
Let's recommend a thing to you. I've got a couple things in my back pocket that you might like. Take a trip with me to the trunk of my car. I've got a few things that you might also like. Lots of things, lots of stuff.
So hey, these are just some things that we like and we want you to like too. If you like Tom Waits, I've got a podcast just for you. It's called Song by Song. It's a couple of British men who are musicians. Take a look track by track, song by song, if you will. An in-depth look at the songs of Thomas Allen Waits. And it's a wonderful and insightful podcast.
Tim, what do you recommend?
I have a couple things that I would like to recommend. So Alexandria Quarterly Press Mag.com is a friend of mine who publishes a quarterly magazine, and it's a bunch of very beautiful poetry, art, and short fiction, and they do a lot of other really, really fantastic things. And another thing I'd like to recommend is Ecosia.com, I think. Is it .com or .org? I don't know. Just Google Ecosia. It's also an app, but it's a search engine. So replace Google with Ecosia, and it plants trees and reforests rainforests that are being devastated by our terrible world. And yeah, that's what
I'm going to hop on that bandwagon real quick. I might have a real thing, but a coworker of mine turned me on to a site, freerice.com. It might be a really well-known thing, but it's this sort of site with a bunch of trivia quiz games that ratchet up intensity as you go, and the gimmick is that for every question you answer, you're adding rice to a bowl, and they will donate the amount of rice that you virtually accumulate to people who are hungry around the world. And also really fucking addicting vocabulary game with 60 levels of difficulty that I made it up to 48, and I just fucking need to make it to 60. Like, it starts out with like cat means, and it's like a list of like mailbox, toaster, furry animal, and then at the end you're like trying to fucking parse out the etymology of some quizzy classic diesel, and it's like, does that mean alphabetical or pico-rampidal? And you have to fucking, I don't know, it's addictive as fuck, and I'm helping people, I guess. Sure. Frank.
So I'm going to recommend one of the best reality television shows I've ever seen. It is called Forged in Fire.
Oh my god,
my
yes!
God.
It is the best.
Don't listen to this, you.
Don't
you listen to this out there.
Have you seen Knife Night in America? Have you seen the combination with Ninja Warrior thing? Where
I have not yet.
It's a bunch of fucking incels stabbing pumpkins.
So Forged in Fire.
I've never heard a better blurb for it.
It is these dudes with ponytails and goatees. And they fucking love Conan the Barbarian. 9 times out of 10, they love Conan the Barbarian. And, you know, they have never known the touch of another human being, but they know how to forge knives.
They know the touch of cold, hard steel.
And they, like, forge knives. It is chopped, but for knife and sword forge.
I love the judges.
It's literally the same format as chopped.
I fucking love the judges. They're my favorite part. And the tests they do, and like these like martial arts experts. You can't see the air quotes.
Yes. So the last test in Forged in Fire is whether or not the blade that you have designed will kill.
It will kill.
So this dude, who is the quote-unquote martial arts expert of the show, takes your weapon and he brings it up against a ballistics dummy, and he like fucking chops the shit.
Kool-Aid comes out of it.
Dummy, and he goes, "This, it will kill."
It's so good. I highly recommend it. It's this weird thing where it's
fucking
gone full
rules.
circle.
It is the best show I've ever seen.
I anti-recommend that.
No, seriously, the History Channel has gone full circle where I loved it as a kid because it was actually educational, and then it just got more and more just incel, toxic masculinity, Spike TV, crazy nonsense, but now it has gone so cartoonishly in that direction that they have something called Truck Night in America where, you know, there's like murderous pickup trucks you see on the road. It's basically Ninja Warrior, but for pickup trucks.
Listen to the Dollop episode on Justin. Did you listen to the Dollop episode on truck nuts?
No.
Yeah. Oh, listen to it. It's great. But yeah, Forged in Fire. Forged in Fire is the best reality television show. It's better than Job Tools.
Well, that was quite an episode. I'm sure you out there in TV land will agree with us. But I've got one small favor to ask of you. Just a simple thing. And
Write about us on iTunes.
Yeah, do that.
Rate us on iTunes.
Rate us on iTunes. Subscribe. Do something, or else who knows what'll happen to us.
Jeez. You know all those wars
Justin will blow up the world.
I have waterproofed the doors and windows in this room, and it is slowly filling up with water. Even if you rate and review, that's not going to change a thing. So you could follow me. You could follow the Plaid Lads on the Instagram at Plaid Lads Pod, also Twitter, also Plaid Lads Pod at gmail.com. Do any of those, whatever, you knows. I'm Justin Eric Tutora.
I'm Tom Donahue.
I am Francis Thomas McDevitt the Third.
What the fuck?
And I am Timothy Michael Bretschneider.
What the fuck? Who the fuck?
Who is this? What the who? You're not Frank.
I've been on every episode silently behind each of you.
That's right. We had a special guest. We played a goof on you. We had a guest this week. It was Tim Bretschneider.
Yeah. Did you spot him?
Tim's coming back.
What?
That's the thing he does. That's his catchphrase. You know it well.
He's got a wonderful band, hat and boots.
Listen to it.
Just everybody go fuck yourselves. You know what? I've had it up
Everyone
to here.
go die.
The battery's dying. This is perfect timing.
We're all dying in some way or another.
We're going to be back next week with what are we doing?
What are we doing next week? Quick.
Oh, I have no idea. We don't know. Bye.
Goodbye. All right, we're clear.
Yeah. Yeah.